One strategic and call it critical audience that needs to know all the time on a need-to-know basis the truth and the way the things are as the public. It is no more news that the 2018 budget has been signed by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. On the day he signed that budget, he raised a lot of concerns. And based on these concerns, there was a reaction from the National Assembly. Sustaining the conversation on the 2018 recently signed budget will be the focus on this segment on Insight today. And I have two gentlemen, Aliyu Abdullahi, lawyer and deputy coordinator, Buhari Media Organization, is here with me in the studio. Thanks for joining me on Insight.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and on the flip side, I have a businessman, financial economist, director, Emmanuel Business School, Abuja, Emmanuel Ozigi. Thanks for joining me on
Thank
Insight.
You very much.
I believe this will be a good balance. A lawyer, a politician, a broadcaster, a businessman, and you, a financial expert, a consultant, trying to look at this from both the private and the public sector. Once again, gentlemen, thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Now, a lot of arguments have been sustained, and let me say I want to play the devil's advocate here today by giving you this tone. The budget, by and large, is looked at towards Mr. President. Some of the concerns is raised beyond the fact that he said allocations to critical projects have been reduced by the National Assembly. He also speaks to the fact that he wants to see, with time, a predictable budget cycle that will be sustainable and consistent. Now, the budget, from the explanation from the executive also, is in tandem with the Economic Recovery Growth Plan and the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTEF. Could it be that it's as a result of the judgment passed by a court that the legislature decided to tinker or deconstruct the budget the way they want? Ministries, parastatals, and agencies may have also been the problem by not coming up in time to defend the budget proposals by them as sent by Mr. President. By and large, the National Assembly says part of why they did what they did was because they felt there was some kind of lopsidedness against and in favor of some geopolitical zones. So in an attempt to strike that balance, they did what they did. So let us open discussion on this. The budget is there for the public, and this is my concern.
The interest should be one. That's the interest of the Nigerian people. The executive arm and the legislative arm should both work towards the interests of the Nigerian people, because that's why they are where they are right now. And about tinkering over the budget and the president's speech, you see, let me tell you this. I think people need to, these two arms, they need to really know their responsibilities, their mandate, where their work starts and where it ends. The executive are empowered to actually govern this country, to make policies and to implement these policies. The legislative branch is empowered to make laws for the good governance of the country in Section 4. And that part of that power, because the budget is an act, when the president signed, it became a law.
Yes.
So it is part of that function they should do. And also, by virtue of Section 81, the Constitution gave them the appropriation powers. Now, the problem where I think the executive and the legislative and even the public don't seem to really understand very much is the definition of that appropriation. And yes, there is that court judgment that said the legislative branch can tinker, but what is tinkering? Again, that is another thing that needs to really be properly defined. Now, let me tell you something. Okay. In my own opinion, I agree the legislative branch can add, subtract, they can cut down. All this I agree, within their powers of operation. But what I don't seem to agree, if you read this section 81, is they should not bring projects that has not been contemplated, formulated, and presented by the executive branch. The Constitution says the president has the powers to cause to be prepared the estimates of the bills, or that is the budget, and lay it before the National Assembly. Now, those projects the National Assembly inserted that were not under the contemplation of the executive arm, have they satisfied the first arm of Section 81? That is the question. How legal were those projects if the president, if the executive didn't know about them, didn't approve of them, and didn't lay them before them? That is question one. Now, secondly, again, you see, like I said, it's knowing your work. Is it the legislative arm's work to know what Nigerians or the policies to be formulated? Okay. If they wanted to have done that, if you wanted to be a policy formulator and implementer, you should have run for office on the other side to be an executive. You shouldn't be a legislator and an oversighter. But
imagine that they are a complete Nigerian at the legislature, since they represent a cross-sectoral view for Nigeria. Yes,
that is true. They can, that's what I say. They are there to represent the people's interests. And now, even their rationale they gave about tinkering or bringing in, cutting down this, I don't have a problem with the cutting down, even though it could be, the question should be whether it is in the public interest or personal interest. But my only question, and it's a legal issue, is bringing those projects that were not actually not to the executive. But again, to answer your question, let me tell you this this issue. I think it is not correct to say the executive, the budget, the entire list of expenses the executive actually presented in the first place didn't like cover the whole country, and that's why they did what they did. The executive, don't forget, they have 36 ministers representing each state of the federation,
but not elected.
Yeah, but not elected, but they are part of the executives. Actually, the budget is work that is culminated by all these ministries. Doesn't the ministries and their agencies have inputs there? So I don't believe there is a minister, let's say from my state, so I don't believe my minister from my state, I'm from Gombe state, that he will not see something that would not come to Gombe, or at least my own part, and he will not just raise eyebrows, he will just keep quiet. And those projects, let me show you an example that they cut from them. The Second River Niger Bridge.
But bottom line is that interest. What interest both ways? You have not hit that. Just in that and move on.
And the second thing that I think their explanation that came from the National Assembly didn't address is this. Is the issue of the interest. Those projects they put, about 6,700 projects they inserted. Whose interests are they serving?
Okay, God bless you. Let me leave it there.
I want to tell you.
Let me leave it there.
Do you know what happened? Constituency projects. What do they do with it? They will actually put it there, but how many of those constituency projects got to be executed at the end of the day? That is one question.
We'll come to that.
How does the National Assembly come back to those agencies that these constituency projects are domiciled in to actually force the heads of these MDAs to award this contract to either themselves, the legislative arm, or to actually to give it out to their cronies? And this one is even against the due process of law, violating the Procurement Act.
Okay, thank you. Let me hold you there. Now, back to Ozigi. Arising from the concerns raised by Mr. President, he said that one of his concerns was the fact that there were deductions or reductions in allocations to critical projects, and one of it, like he wanted to say, was the Enugu Airport Terminal building, cut from 2 billion to 500 million. Second Niger Bridge, Mambila Power Plant, Bonny Bodo Road, Lagos Ibadan Expressway, Itakpe Ajakuta Rail Project, cut by 11.5 billion naira. Onitsha to look at the second Niger Bridge, Lokoja to look at. So looking at that and a few other bridges, like projects like that. Now tying it to the excuse given by the National Assembly, what's your thought?
Well, I wanted to let you understand that we should be very mindful about the time we are. This is the third year towards the end of this government, or the first side of the government. And the government is very strategic in designing this budget. One, to underscore the need why the budget must meet the requirements of the populace, and at the same time to show good governance. Now, I'm very much in support of the cycle, the January to December cycle. And if you look at it, it has been distorted. Now, if the budget is passed in June, what is the lifespan? What is the life cycle for this budget? Are we looking at July next year, when this government will have been out by, or will be coming by, or this particular administration will be ending by May? Now, when you look at all these strategic points, it's very obvious that there are interests. Now, the interest on the legislative side and the interest on the executive side. What I'm looking at from the financial point of view is that the legislators, I'm not saying they shouldn't tinker, but first of all, you must first of all itemize projects of priority. If you are looking at, I'm representing a constituency, you should know what exactly your constituency need. Now, the executive might not really understand what the constituencies all need at the federal level. The constituency with the legislators will know better. But what I'm trying to say is that there must be synergy at some point during budget processes, budget preparation. There should be this synergy where both will meet and it's okay, this is what we are looking at from our own end, this is what they are looking at, then it comes in. It comes and becomes a budget. Budget is basically an estimate of income and expenditure, which of course there might be a supplementary in case there are variations. What I'm trying to say is that there are critical projects which, to some large extent, some from school of thought will think this government is trying to use it as a political game to underscore support for 2019, which things like Mambila Plateau for the power project, Ajakuta rail line, and especially River Niger,
Second Niger Bridge,
Niger Delta University. These are critical projects actually that will give some support or will raise interest towards the 2019 election. But at the same time, the legislators will say, oh, we need this. What I'm trying to talk about basically is the credibility of the budget. And the processes of the budget is not credible, because if it was credible, all these things we are talking about will not be there. Everybody's interest will have been put to paper and will have been aggregated together before it's presented to the House. And all this will have been there for one to be saying, oh, I have the power, I don't have the power. It won't arise at this point because all the interests will have been put together and will have been a document before it's assented by the president.
Okay. So what do you make of, let me stay on you still, notwithstanding the delay this year, I am determined to continue to work with the National Assembly towards improving the budgeting process and restoring our country to the January-December fiscal cycle.
Yes, from the private sector point of view, everybody looks at January
to December. Mr. President now.
Yes, everybody looks at January to December. That has been the cycle. And from private sector, even though they don't have much power, government is the biggest spender for a developing economy of this nature. Governments are big spenders. And the private sector is dependent 100% in government expenditure, government releases. So if the president insists that must restore all that they presented, then we'll still have a delay. So the president, in his wisdom, is looking at, okay, in order to cause an impasse on this, let's move on. If there are adjustments as the budget is being implemented, then we can make adjustments. I think it's a good thing for the budget to be passed.
Okay, let me still stay on you. Then we link up with Aliyu. Now, despite what Mr. President said, this is the legislature. I'm trying to be the devil's advocate here, so leaving it to the two of you.
All right.
They argued that the number of projects had to be increased in order to give a sense of belonging to every socio-economic justice, equity, fairness, and national loyalty. Now, they are now saying that the National Assembly made budget cuts to the tune of 347 billion, originally meant to execute 4,700 projects, and smuggled fresh 6,403 projects. It's 578 billion allocations in the budget. So,
yeah, well, I'm still going back to what I said previously, that there was no synergy between everybody is operating.
So that's the issue.
Yes,
how do you create this synergy now?
Now, what the synergy is that before a call is made, every interest should come to board. And for instance, if you are looking at road project, whoever is looking at roadway in the legislative arms of the government should be able to present it to the House and say, okay, from my constituency, we are looking at road of this so kilometer and this. So it will be good for the Ministry of Power, well, whichever ministry that is involved, works and how it should be involved. You present this to them while they are preparing their budget. Please, this is what we are looking at in our constituency.
Or ahead of the defense?
Ahead of the defense.
Okay.
Ahead of the defense. Defense is probably just to give justification why this budget is being presented or prepared. It's a justification. Defense is not for you to be saying, I need this, I need... No, that, we should go beyond this. Defense is more like a jamboree. Going there to say we are doing defense and I want to know why you are putting to be, okay, I use my hand to deduct. No, it should be that we have agreed. We are looking at this. Then at that point, you are looking at 100 billion to spend in your constituency. Now you give a justification. How about my colleague was just saying that we're looking at, it should be contemplated. And there must be budget credibility.
Not foisted.
No, not foisted. There must be a credibility around it. And there should be an objectivity on what actually those funds are meant for. Now, we are looking at politics, we are looking at interest. Some people are looking at politics for power gain. Some people are looking at interest for their personal pocket. Some people are looking at it for their own personal interest in terms of people should see about me.
I think we're very sorry. Let me go to Aliyu now. Aliyu, now, give and take. This argument has sustained for long. The budget willy-nilly has been signed by Mr. President, meaning implementation has to start with allocations and what have you. Though there's a caveat that, okay, if this has happened, let Mr. President come up with a supplementary appropriation, maybe to meet up expenses like 2019 budget, expenditure for elections, which has to be approved now so that it does not delay the electoral timetable. Now, it has been signed. The arguments are on.
You see, first and foremost, the importance of budget. That is what Mr. Ima was trying to capture here. It's so important to everybody, to investors, both local and foreign, because you want to do something, but you are waiting to see what's the budget of that country. What are they earmarking to this sector or to the other sector? So, and while they are delaying, the investors are also being held back and at greater cost. Cost of funding is so high, cost of borrowing is also high, so all this affects the economy. We don't get the benefits of these investors coming to do that because they are waiting to see what this country is offering as budget. Now, the budget cycle, part of the importance of the budget cycle going back to January to December is this. Otherwise, like you rightly pointed out in your opening, there are countries that do June to June or July to July or so. But the problem is our financial year in Nigeria is, for companies, is January to December. So, and like he said, and like you also said, the budget is so crucial to everybody, to the private sectors. It's not just for public, it's for even private sectors. Now, it affects their own financial year. It affects everybody's financial year. That is why we needed the budget to go back to that cycle of January to December. But even looking at it as it is now, if I should come in, I think the best in Ima has said 80% of what should be done. There should be a greater synergy before the budget, before even laying the budget. And I think I should think there was actually, we have discussed this for 3 years now.
So I'm not continue. If a budget is tied within the tandem of the economic recovery growth plan of government,
yes,
and the medium-term expenditure framework, which other synergy are we looking at? I'm just concerned.
I'm talking about the synergy of the issues, like they are saying. Now what they are relying on is they are closer as representatives of the people. They are closer to the people, so they know what the people wanted more besides those grandstanding projects. Now, the thing is, let me even tell you something. I laugh sometimes when I read their explanation. These guys, they are talking about going to build boreholes, giving sewing machines, maybe transformers. That is those good ones among them that actually do those kind of things. But we are talking about recovering the economy at a faster growth. The ERGP has a 3 years plan, that is 2017 to 2020. And you see, in order to achieve those things, infrastructure, we have Don't forget, let me tell you the deficit we have in infrastructure. $1.3 trillion every year for 30 years. If we are to become a developed country, that means we must spend $1.3 trillion in dollars for 30 years if we are to get to where we should be as a developed country. Now, those projects that they are calling grandstanding, the project you have itemized, Lagos Ibadan Expressway, the Second River Niger Bridge, the power project.
We have health too.
Yeah, and health. And those major projects, are they not going to affect every constituency? See, let me tell you, because by the time we have these infrastructures going, look at the power we are battling. We are battling with 7,000 megawatt generation, not even distribution. We are distributing less than 5,000. Now, if the power has been increased, additional 3,000 point something from Mambila is increased, and Lagos by the expressway, the rail lines, all these projects. Tell me, how wouldn't that affect the economy in a positive way? It doesn't matter whether you are from Sokoto or you are from Ikot Ekpene, whether you are from Ijebu-Ode in Ogun State, you are going to benefit, because at least small businesses can thrive. The MSME, they are relying, that they're saying they are working, they want to support MSME. MSME will do better with those projects that Mr. President has as priority. But do you know there are ideas of MSME, helping the MSME? Like I told you, giving sewing machines, giving wheelbarrows. These are their ideas of helping MSME, and that is not help. The help the MSME needed are those major projects: power, roads, rail, health, education.
Okay, Ali, let me hold you there. To just lead us further. The other projects, some of them have to do provision of security infrastructure in 104 unity schools, cut by 3 billion naira. Provision for housing project, cut by 8.7 billion. Provision of pension redemption funds and public wage, that is minimum wage now, adjustments, salary increase, cut by 5 billion naira. Critical infrastructure projects in FCT, cut by 7.5 billion naira. So, yes, it looks somehow, if this argument continues, that is when two elephants are fighting, the grass will suffer. Can this thing have a natural resolution towards positives?
Well, as I rightly said earlier, you know, I made a mention from the beginning of my statement. I said this is a very tight period. The budget must be seen to be reaching the populace. Now,
and if this fight continues, will it reach?
In the first instance, I want to even say that we have never had good budget performance. The budget performance has been quite below 30%, and that doesn't speak well of a country of this nature. That even when budgets are passed early, the implementation is a problem. And when you have that, what it means is that the budget itself is not credible. And when the budget is not credible, there are a lot of things that make it not credible. One, for instance, maybe there are no funds, available of funds to put this. So when you bring out a budget, the question is that can you cash back it? It's not only our budget that is the matter, but can you cash back it? Yeah. So when the cash is not available, it's not credible. And when some of these things are coming on, somebody's pulling out, somebody's pulling in, it doesn't show any synergy in between them. And you're just bringing projects. Some of these projects are good, but some of them can be elephant projects. We can't sustain these projects in the next 1 year. The Niger Bridge cannot be finished in the next 1 year. The Mambila project cannot be finished in the next 1 year. It can be a project at commencement, yes, which is good, because government is a continuum. What I'm trying to say is that, what is the legitimacy of some of these projects that are itemized? Why was this project not itemized early, 2 years ago? For us to now say this is a success story of this government, for us to now use that as a benchmark to support for next government. These are my area of contest.
Well, some of the projects were not initiated by this government.
Yes,
they inherited them.
What I'm saying.
And looking at the economic strategic importance, they sustained them.
Yes,
they didn't just abandon them.
It's good. It's a good initiative to continue. That's why government is a continuum, which is good. Part of this, especially in FCT, most of the projects are already ongoing, were continued, which is good. What I'm trying to say is that, you see, the major thing we should look at is what is the objective of a budget, especially for a developing economy like us, and an economy that is solely dependent on a monocultural income, which is oil. our benchmark is based on oil. And even that was tampered with because of from 45 to 51 is tampered, which is fine because already we are seeing indicators. But be that as it may, what we're trying to say is that if we are relying 100% on this, what it shows that everybody is now looking at this is the only way we are going to generate income apart from maybe loan we're going to take from to service this thing. Do we have the funds available? I'm looking at it from availability of fund and the credibility of what is contained in the appropriation bill. So what we're trying to say is that yes, these are laudable projects, are projects that will impact in our life, especially as Aliyu just rightly said. For you, what's it called? Somebody on the street to benefit, to feel impact of governance, is that he or she has access to some of these basic things. Basic things like road, health, education. It's been eroded. It's a very expensive things for anybody to access. But for you to say that yes, budget is meaningful, it's going to impact to the common person, then some of these things must be done to meet them. Because if I probably as a shoemaker, I'm buying generator, I'm going to buy diesel or buy petrol to run it. Look at the cost component of doing a shoe, or even to run my school. I need to buy generator and run it from 8 hours daily. You know what it means? You spend almost 900,000 naira on a monthly basis, aggregated for a year. That is sufficient for you, for a little community to earn a living in a year. Now, we are now putting into diesel and electricity. So, what it means is that the government must sit back. Even the legislators who are protecting the so-called constituency should sit back and look at what are we actually representing our constituency or ourselves. And the government should look back too, to say, are we doing it for the purpose of underscoring political game, or we are sincere at this budget representations? These are areas of where I'm having a demarcation. Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Aliyu, there's a visible strategic group somewhere watching. Some are worried, some are expressing fear, some are like, is Nigeria moving forward? And that is the public. And when you say the public, I always say the publics, because the publics is categorized into silos of various imports in terms of how strategic they are. Now, imagine that you have the mind of these persons and you're like trying to reassure them, don't worry, everything will be fine, so they do not have fear. Because I could be one of them. I was really worried at the beginning of the so if these two things are happening, where lies the way forward?
There is hope. You see, it's not like these things, the priority of this government of President Muhammad Buhari when it comes to these infrastructures, key things that he wants to spend, it's not like it's going to stop. It's just that it's a setback.
It won't stop the process.
No, it won't stop.
Okay.
It's a setback. He wants to reach an appreciable stage. Like we know, this administration has a lifespan. The lifespan of the administration is 4 years, and in May next year. So, assuming or whatever, he wants by that next year at least to beat his chest, and say, this is what we have done. This is where we took things, what we inherited from past government. We have reached it to either this level or we completed it to this level, So and that's why they are priorities to him. The setback being that these deductions or these cutbacks and things like that, he is not happy because he could have done more with it. That is one. Secondly, I think the second reason why the executive is not happy is not about just the cutting. It's also about what will be used, what the legislators will use it for. They already have a 170 billion for the constituency project, which the executive permitted it to be put in. That's why I told you there was synergy from the beginning while preparing the budget. They said they want a constituency project of 170 billion, and it was agreed, it was accepted by the executive. It is there inside the budget, and yet After
did it come through the front door, the back door?
No, through the front door. Okay. This time around through the front door, okay. Not padded. So it was accepted. Mr. President said, okay, why not? Now, the additional money they have for increasing that the income expectation from $45 to $50, you know, they gave the executive $3, they gave themselves $2. Now the $2, this is what they want to do with it. The executive is also is concerned with, after all, you have 170 billion for the constituency project. Now with this additional money, what are you going to do with it, knowing that, you know, we know the history of how this constituency project actually normally goes?
The term may have changed.
It may have changed, but we are Nigerians. Nigerians are the judges. I will leave Nigerians to be the great judges about that. If you are a Nigerian, you had your constituency, your senators, House of Reps already had 170 billion plus another 100 billion. They will ask them questions. What are you doing? Where are these things and these things that that you are supposed to give us? So that is one thing. I think that is the great concern. But as per hope for the way Nigeria is going to go in terms of the execution of the budget, in terms of the agenda of Mr. President, when it comes to economic plans, when it comes to this key infrastructure, I think we are we're still on a steady road to success. I don't think the executive is going to backtrack on anything. Those things that he promised, reviving the economy, is still ongoing. The social investment projects is still going to continue. The infrastructures, they are still going to be worked on. More roads. Look at it. Let Nigerians please be judges. When last have we seen roads being constructed everywhere across the country, from southeast to southwest, from southwest to northeast? I've followed some of this road. I myself during this break, the holiday of Eid al-Fitr. So you see, and they are being worked on, and the contractors are being paid, unlike before, when in the past government, you know, because in everything, let me tell you, the people say we shouldn't compare, but we have to compare. If you don't compare, you don't know, you cannot measure success. You can't measure success. My professor in business school told me that you must compare. So what about the last administration? They failed to pay these contractors from 2012. No contractor was paid. They were working just on words. But this government, in its 3 years, they are not owing contractors. Most of the road constructors have been paid for even work that was done by the in the former administration. Yeah, under Skook bond. You know, this country, this government raised Skook bond, and they paid contractors. All these contractors you saw around Benin, from Lokoja to Benin to Southeast, they have been paid. You know, I've had the information. Sorry, the Minister of Power and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, he said it, and the contractors were there. They confirmed they received it. So Nigerians should be the judges of whether we are moving forward when it comes to the economic revival of this country.
Let me hold it there. Now, the government of the day is talking about PPP, getting the private sector deeply involved, getting the NGOs, the CSOs deeply involved. It was not like this before. And truly, if you don't breathe life to the private sector, then it's just as good as we are running a lame economy. So let me imagine, as a financial economist who is in the private sector more or less, although you depend on the Aliyus and the public sector to really breathe life to you. So speaking to your own sector now, what would be that appeal so that you are not left behind? Man, you have a huge sector now, the private sector in Nigeria.
Yes, very huge.
Given this development, it will affect you.
Yes, because
your school that is called Emmanuel, the business school in Abuja, could be affected.
For sure.
Okay.
For sure, because one, enrollment will drastically reduce.
So you have a plan now for what can you say about your sector in case?
No, we can't, because everybody depend on government releases, and if there are no funds in the economy, people will not even, patronize it for any business. What it means is that it affects employment, it affects remuneration, it affects standard of living, it increases poverty, it increases unemployment. So these are the side effects of issues like this, because the private sector in Nigeria, or developing economies, are solely dependent on government. And as we're looking at it, I still strongly believe that we might not really get there as we're looking at, because by August, September, electioneering campaign starts. The president will not have enough time to evaluate performance of his budget before next year election. Let's be sincere, because critical projects that need his attention, he won't have that time, because it will not be election period, and because of election, he will be distracted in doing this. So the performance of this budget is questionable, even if as it is being passed now. So even
when the government is determined, no matter what the odds are,
even as government is determined. I mean, I'm a realistic person, and I need to hit the nail at the head. The government won't shy away from politics, because this is a period. The government will certify that yes, we will do it. But from parameters and from experience, we know it's not possible. Even when we are not in election year, this election year, even when we are not in election year, budget performance has been below 30%.
No, sir. No.
It has been below 30%. We have parameters to judge.
60.
Let me argue with you now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I disagree, because we
don't have this all the time.
Because he has been talking, we have now passed, I think, gone out of the budget passing, and think he is talking about implementation, and I quite disagree with him. I had him mention it the first. I thought maybe I should leave it, I should let it go. Now he has mentioned it again. I think I should. Even the National Assembly that has criticized this executive about budget implementation percentage, they have agreed. This last budget, this 2017, they have agreed that it has surpassed 50%.
Okay. Your observation is
60%.
Yeah.
If they are circular,
your observation is sustained.
When
you're looking at
never in the life of this administration, that they recorded 30%.
When you're looking at the current
50, 60, 70.
When you're looking at the current expenditure,
not the current, I'm talking about capital.
The statistics are there.
I sustain this observation, so you move on.
Let me give you a little example.
Okay.
I'm from Kogi State. From Abu, you said people have been paid. Contractors not on that route to continue the job. Do you say that is a continuous? People on that route who are working there, earning their daily income from media jobs are not unemployed, and they've been paid according to you.
So now speak to just speak to the fact that
capital expenditure. That is where money people.
So speak to the private sector now.
I think that is informing the.
No, I'm not misinforming. These are practical things. Let's be sincere. Let's not play politics about. I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about reality. So let's be sincere. Let the public know that yes, there are sincere people that can come to the media and say the truth. The public is listening. Let's not
drag. The issue is that just sustain your position on the private sector now.
Yeah, on the private sector.
If this budget is hit too hard, it may affect the private sector where you belong. So. Solution-wise,
solution-wise,
he has given a solution.
You see, the solution-wise is that for the first time, the president, it's obvious, he has interest in making sure there's good governance. That you cannot take away from the president. But you see, there are people around, or the people who are working, cannot be everywhere. These people will not allow it to work. One is either to distract him from performing. Secondly, is to people have selfish interests. They don't want to perform. So what he needs to do is to identify all these things and come to a round table with these people who are aggrieved and see how we can work. So the entire country will benefit. I'm not saying everybody will benefit from it. It's a potpourri.
Okay.
Everybody will benefit from it. But at least
I think I achieved the essence of setting up this team, the private sector and somebody from the public sector on the side of government. Well, before I wrap up, let me quickly congratulate Aliyu for the All Progressives Congress having a new National Working Committee, and I believe this will add some freshness into the agreement of putting up. The new chairman, Adam Shoshimele, has said in his acceptance speech that he knows there are a lot of challenges. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. Aliyu Abdullahi, lawyer, deputy coordinator, Buharis Media Organization, and a business expert. Thanks for being on the side.
Thank you.
Also to Emmanuel Ozigi, financial economist, director, Emmanuel Business School, Abuja, and also a politician, more or less. It was nice talking with you.
He's a politician,
all right. All right, all the best, gentlemen. All right.